A British tycoon hired his hotel maid as a fake date, only to discover the truth she hid could change everything. Noah Carter was a man many admired, but few understood. In the midst of London's grandeur, he lived isolated at the top of one of the city's most luxurious hotels, a palace of glass and steel that reflected the austere beauty of the British sky. It was a modern fortress, surrounded by the constant bustle of the metropolis, but where silence reigned, as if the building itself respected the solitude of its illustrious guest. The penthouse was a perfect reflection of Noah, minimalist, elegant, and impenetrable. From a young age, Noah showed an intellect that set him apart from his peers. While other teenagers spent hours on sports or partying, he immersed himself in the intricate codes of programming and the mysteries of the financial market. He grew up in a humble neighborhood on the outskirts of London, raised by a mother who worked as a teacher and juggled her time to support the family. It was there that Noah developed his relentless ambition and a fierce determination to change his destiny. At university, his genius emerged as a rising star. At just 22 years old, he created innovative software that allowed him to predict stock market trends with impressive accuracy. This algorithm attracted investors like a magnet, propelling Noah to the top of the technological and financial elite within a few years. However, this meteoric success came at a price he never imagined he would pay. It was during this phase that Noah met Claire. She was a performing arts student, radiant and full of dreams, with an energy that seemed to light up any room. Claire had a classic beauty, but what attracted Noah most was her apparent authenticity. He believed that with her, he could find a balance between the pressure of his career and the lightness of love. At first, Claire seemed charmed by what a bright and determined young man he was. She accompanied him to simple dinners and shared her hopes for a future together. However, the tide quickly turned. As Noah began to attract attention in the financial world, so did the media spotlight and the temptations of success. Claire, who initially seemed to be there for him out of love, began to get carried away by the opportunities that Noah's new position offered. She made influential friends in the art world and gradually began to aim for something grander than the life Noah could offer at the time. The blow came on an ordinary day. Noah was returning from a long meeting with investors, exhausted but hopeful. He had managed to secure funding to expand his startup, which meant he could finally offer Claire a more comfortable life. He entered the small apartment they shared, only to find Claire packing her bags. "I'm going to America," she said bluntly, as she put away expensive dresses and shoes that, ironically, Noah had bought her. "I don't understand," Noah replied, confused and astonished. Claire, impassive, explained that she had met a film producer during an event, and that he was willing to pay for her studies and open doors for her in Hollywood. "You're brilliant, Noah, but I need something more," she said, not realizing or perhaps not caring about the devastating impact of her words. For Noah, it wasn't just a rejection. It was a deep betrayal that challenged everything he believed about love and loyalty. He didn't just lose Claire, he lost the ability to trust others. This momentous event shaped the man he would become, methodical, reserved, and completely dedicated to his work. Years passed, and the young visionary became the Noah Carter everyone knew, a respected and feared tycoon whose name was synonymous with innovation and success. His company, Carter Solutions, dominated the artificial intelligence market for the financial sector, offering tools that revolutionized how banks and investors operated. He amassed a fortune in excess of billions, but lived austerely, keeping his distance from any meaningful relationships. The penthouse where he lived was more than a home. It was a sanctuary of introspection and control. Every detail of the space reflected his personality: impeccably designed furniture, clean lines, and neutral colors, with nothing to suggest excess or vulnerability. There were no personal photos or sentimental mementos. It was as if Noah had erased any trace of his past, living only in the present with his eyes fixed on the future. Despite this, there was a subtle melancholy that permeated his existence. Although he was surrounded by luxury, Noah spent his evenings alone, reading financial reports or exploring new technologies. He kept his distance from parties and social events, delegating these tasks to his public relations team. On rare occasions, he accepted invitations to gala events, but He never brought a date, fueling rumors about his personal life. Noah justified his seclusion with rational arguments. He told himself that love was a dangerous distraction, a risk not worth taking. However, in the quieter moments when the city calmed down and the moon illuminated London's vast landscape, he allowed himself to remember Claire and the wound she had left. Deep down, Noah knew that his life, however successful, was incomplete. One of the few pleasures Noah still allowed himself was to observe the people around him. At the hotel, he was a distant but attentive figure. He noticed the staff who worked tirelessly to keep the place spotless, especially Lena, a young chambermaid from Lithuania, whose gaze conveyed a silent strength. Although they had never exchanged more than a few cordial words, Noah felt intrigued by her presence. There was something about her that made him wonder what could be hidden beneath her calm professional facade. Noah Carter's life followed a predictable routine, meticulously structured to avoid any emotional fallout. He was torn between the sophistication of the hotel and the intensity of the business. His refuge, the penthouse, was a place where he could keep everything under control. There was no room for disorder or surprises. When he needed female company, he chose women he knew through events or professional contacts. They were beautiful, articulate women, but always kept their distance. He set clear boundaries from the start, with no promises or illusions. However, there was an inescapable pattern. As soon as he realized that one of them was starting to want to go beyond the walls he had built around himself, he would end the relationship without hesitation. Noah knew it made him look cold and calculating, but he preferred that image to the possibility of another betrayal. Claire's ghost still hovered in his mind, constantly reminding him that trusting in love was a risk he wasn't willing to take again. And so he carried on with his solitary life, with the spotlight of success illuminating his exterior while shadows dominated his interior. One day, however, the careful order he held so dear began to crumble. At his company, Carter Solutions, he was facing one of the most important challenges of his career. A group of Japanese investors, led by the traditionally conservative Mr. Nakamura, were interested in financing an ambitious project that Noah had been planning for months. It was a revolutionary piece of software that promised to transform the way banks manage their assets, an innovation that could further consolidate Noah's supremacy in the technology market. The Japanese, known for their traditions and values, had agreed to attend a gala dinner to discuss the final details of the contract. However, there was one detail that Noah had not anticipated. Mr. Nakamura, a middle-aged man with a strong inclination towards family ideals, suggested that Noah bring a companion to the event. It's always inspiring to see how great businessmen manage to balance their professional lives with their personal relationships, Mr. Nakamura had said, with a cordial but expectant smile. To Noah, that simple phrase sounded like a sentence. He tried to deflect, mentioning his busy schedule and his dedication to work, but Mr. Nakamura politely insisted, making it clear that he valued the presence of a partner as a symbol of stability and humanity. At the end of the meeting, Noah returned to his office, closing the door behind him with a heaviness he hadn't felt for a long time. He was trapped. The Japanese investment was crucial, but the idea of taking an escort seemed like an impossible challenge. Who could he take? The women he used to meet were beautiful, but empty of substance, and Noah knew that Nakamura would see through any superficial pretenses. He needed someone who was discreet, authentic and reliable, someone who could pass herself off as a companion without complications. As he reflected, Noah felt his mind wander back to the hotel, his refuge between the battles of the corporate world. He thought of the familiar faces of the staff, those who worked tirelessly to maintain the perfect atmosphere he so appreciated. And then, like a bolt of lightning, an idea crossed his mind. Lena. Lena was an almost imperceptible but undeniably striking presence. She was the chambermaid who looked after his penthouse, a young Lithuanian woman with a serene and discreet appearance. With her blonde hair in a simple bun and a watchful eye, Lena was efficient, quiet, and respected your privacy like few others. She never overstepped her bounds, never asked questions, but there was something about her posture that conveyed dignity and determination. Noah remembered small gestures she made, how she folded his clothes perfectly, how she left a small sprig of lavender on his bed after making it, how she always seemed to know just the right moment to disappear when he arrived. He had never exchanged more than a few words with her, but he still felt that Lena was different. And now, in that moment of crisis, her face appeared in his mind with disturbing clarity. The idea seemed insane at first glance. How could he ask such an unusual thing of a chambermaid? And even if she accepted, how would he justify this choice to his investors? But the more he thought about it, the more the idea made sense. Lena had the authenticity that all the other options lacked. She was real, far from the masks and superficiality he despised. Noah stood up from his chair, looking out of the window that offered a panoramic view of London. The city lights twinkled like stars, but his mind was far away. He knew that this decision could change the course of his life. It wasn't just a business matter, it was a personal risk he wasn't used to taking. Finally, he made a decision. He had to find Lena and make the proposal. But as he walked down the elevator towards the hotel lobby, a feeling of unease came over him. It was as if, for the first time in years, he was about to open a small crack in the wall he had built around himself. Noah didn't know what awaited him, but one thing was certain. His life, so meticulously controlled, was about to take an unexpected turn. Noah walked down the elevator with an unusually tense expression. He rarely dealt personally with hotel staff, relying on his team for any direct interaction. But this time there was no way to delegate. This was such a delicate and unusual situation that only he could handle it. When he arrived at reception, the familiar luxury of the hotel seemed a little heavier, as if the exquisite details around him suddenly didn't matter. He took a deep breath before addressing the concierge, his voice firm but polite. "I'd like you to call the chambermaid in charge of my penthouse, Lena. I need to speak to her directly." The request surprised the concierge, but the order was promptly complied with. Within minutes, Lena was found on the upper floors, organizing a trolley of fresh sheets. When she heard that Mr. Carter, the hotel's most influential guest, wanted to see her in person, her heart raced. She tried to remain calm as she straightened her uniform and put her hair up in a bun, but her nervousness was evident. As she walked towards the lobby, a series of scenarios ran through her mind. Had he made a mistake? Perhaps he had broken some valuable object without realizing it. Or perhaps he was dissatisfied with her cleanliness. Lena hated disappointment, and the possibility of losing her job was a crushing weight. When she arrived at reception, she saw Noah waiting for her. He was impeccably dressed, as always, in a tailored suit that seemed molded to his body. Noah watched her approach and noticed the nervousness on her face. It was rare for him to worry about how his words might be interpreted, but as he looked at Lena, he realized that he needed to be careful. "Mr. Carter," she said, inclining her head slightly in a respectful gesture. "Lena," he began with a controlled formality. "Thank you for coming all this way. I'd like to talk to you about an important matter. Can we sit over there?" He pointed to a private area in the hotel lounge, away from prying eyes. Lena nodded and followed him in silence, trying to control her growing fear. As soon as they were seated, Noah leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on his knees. "First of all, I want you to know that this has nothing to do with your work. You're an excellent professional, and I've always appreciated the attention to detail you show." Lena relaxed slightly, but her curiosity was now piqued. He didn't seem like the kind of man who would waste time on idle compliments. "I'll be direct," Noah continued, keeping his eyes fixed on hers. "I have a very important event in the next few days, and for professional reasons, I need to take a date. I'm in a situation where all the usual options don't fit, and I thought of you." "Me?" The word escaped Lena's lips before she could stop herself. Her surprise was palpable. "Yes. I know this request may seem strange and out of the ordinary, but allow me to explain. I need someone who is discreet, reliable, and authentic. You have these qualities. There is no intention other than mutual convenience. I'm willing to compensate you financially for this." Lena was silent for a moment, trying to process what she had just heard. The offer was unexpected, and in a way, surreal. However, the mention of compensation brought a new weight to the situation. His family in Lithuania was struggling, and the money could make a significant difference. Even so, the idea seemed risky and uncomfortable. "I don't know what to say, Mr. Carter," Lena began, her voice quavering. "That's very unusual. I understand. said Noah. "And I don't expect an answer now. Think about it. And if you decide to accept, I'll take care of all the details to make sure you feel comfortable." Lena spent the evening pondering. There was something in Noah's sincerity that made her believe he had no secondary intentions, but the proposal was still a leap in the dark. However, the need to help her family spoke louder, and the next day she accepted. When Noah received her reply, he immediately tried to offer her everything she might need to get ready. He mentioned renowned stylists, makeup artists, and even an etiquette consultant. Lena, however, politely declined. "With all due respect, Mr. Carter, I prefer to be myself," she said. "If you chose me because I'm authentic, then that's how I should stay." Noah respected the decision, although he was skeptical. He was used to a world where appearances were carefully constructed, and Lena seemed determined to go against that logic. Finally, the day of the dinner arrived. Noah, punctual as ever, drove to the address Lena had provided. It was a simple neighborhood, and a world apart from the luxury he was used to. As he parked, he felt a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. When Lena came out of the small house where she lived, Noah needed a moment to process what he was seeing. Wearing an elegant but simple dress that seemed made for her, Lena looked stunning. Her hair was loose, falling in soft waves that delicately framed her face. There was no excess in her appearance, but it was precisely this simplicity that made her all the more impressive. Noah was not easily impressed, but at that moment he realized that Lena was much more than he had imagined. Noah remained motionless for a few seconds as Lena approached the car. Although he was used to observing details with the clinical eye of a businessman, this time he felt almost disarmed. Lena wasn't just beautiful, there was something magnetic about her posture. She walked gracefully but effortlessly, and her dark blue dress, simple but perfectly fitted, seemed to enhance her presence in a way he hadn't expected. Her loose hair, falling in natural waves, shone in the dim streetlight, and her eyes carried a glint of determination that contrasted with the discreet air he had always noticed about her at the hotel. When she finally got into the car, Noah smelled the soft perfume that accompanied her, something delicate without exaggeration. He watched her for a moment before speaking, almost surprised by his own reaction. "You look absolutely stunning," he said, and the sincerity in his voice caught him off guard. Lena, who was already a little nervous, blushed instantly. She looked away for a brief moment, a small, shy smile appearing on her lips. "Thank you, Mr. Carter," she replied, almost in a whisper. "Noah," he corrected with a slight smile. "Tonight, I think it would be more appropriate for us to call each other by our first names." She nodded, still embarrassed, but grateful for his attempt to put her at ease. The journey continued in comfortable silence, but Noah's thoughts were far away. He reflected on how he had underestimated Lena. Not only did she look different, it was as if she emanated a serene confidence that he had never noticed before. Arriving at the dinner venue, an exclusive restaurant in Mayfair, Lena got out of the car with the help of Noah, who offered his hand in a natural gesture. The grandeur of the place intimidated her for a brief moment, but she soon regained her composure. Noah, watching her closely, realized that Lena had a rare ability to adapt, a balance between humility and dignity that was genuinely captivating. Inside the restaurant, they were greeted by Mr. Nakamura and the other investors, who were waiting for them in a private room decorated with discreet elegance. Noah made the formal introductions, and Lena greeted everyone with a warm smile and a firm but respectful handshake. As dinner began, Lena initially remained silent, listening intently to the conversation in Japanese and English, alternating between the technical and the casual. Noah was impressed by the way she carried herself. There was a calmness in her demeanor, a quiet confidence that made the eyes of those present eventually turn to her, even without her saying a word. It was Nakamura who broke the ice. With a gentle smile, he asked, "And you, Lena? What's life like in London? Noah hasn't told us much about you." Lena, taken by surprise, took a deep breath before answering, her voice firm but humble. "Well, Mr. Nakamura, London has been both a challenge and a blessing. I came here seeking better opportunities for myself and my family in Lithuania. It's not easy being away from home, but I've learned a lot along the way." Her simple but sincere response seemed to please Nakamura. He encouraged her to continue, asking her questions about her life and dreams. Lena talked about her childhood, her love of architecture and design, and how the need to support her family led her to take on jobs outside her field. Noah watched everything in silence, noticing how Lena captivated those present with her authenticity. She made no effort to impress. She was genuine in her words, and this seemed to have a greater impact than any attempt at ostentation could have. As dinner progressed, the conversation inevitably turned to business. Nakamura mentioned his own experience in the financial market, stressing the importance of understanding the fundamentals before relying on technological tools. Lena, with a slight hesitation, commented, "I'm not an expert, but I've always found it fascinating how human intelligence and technology can work together. I learned a bit about this when I was reading about financial strategies to help my family invest better." His remark caught the attention of everyone at the table, including Noah. "Are you interested in the financial market?" asked Nakamura, intrigued. "A little," replied Lena, with a modest smile. "When you have to deal with limited resources, every financial decision matters. It's something that taught me to value planning and to think about the long term." Noah could hardly believe his eyes. Lena was not only up to the challenge, she was exceeding all expectations. Nakamura and the other investors began to involve Lena more actively in the conversation, admiring her practical perspective and, above all, her sincerity. When dinner was almost over, Nakamura made a point of complimenting Lena directly. "Noah," he said, looking at his host with a smile, "you have an admirable partner. It's rare to find someone so insightful and genuine. I hope you have a lot of success together." Lena blushed again, but Noah just nodded, grateful for the compliment. Something inside him had changed. During that night, he didn't just see Lena differently, he began to see himself and his world in a new light. Finally, with a gesture that symbolized his decision, Nakamura raised his wineglass. "Noah," he said, "you are a man of vision, and I am pleased to say that the partnership between our companies is secure. I look forward to what we will build together." Noah toasted, feeling a wave of satisfaction he hadn't experienced for a long time. He looked at Lena next to him and saw the discreet smile she offered, almost as if she knew how much her presence had contributed to this moment. When dinner was over, the investors said goodbye, promising to keep in touch for the next steps in the project. Noah and Lena finally left the restaurant, and the cool London night enveloped them as they walked to their car. Before getting into the vehicle, Noah stopped, looking at Lena with a rare, almost playful smile. "Lena," he began, "this has been an important evening, and not just because we closed deals." She arched an eyebrow, curious. "No?" He shook his head. "You were incredible tonight. I don't think I've ever seen Nakamura so impressed. You have a special talent, you know that." Lena blushed, laughing lightly. "I was just myself, but I'm glad it worked out." Noah, for a moment, seemed to hesitate, as if considering something that wasn't part of his original plan. Then, without wasting any more time, he said, "I don't want to call it a night yet. Let's go to a bar. I need to celebrate this, and I think you deserve something more than just going home." Lena blinked, surprised by the unexpected invitation. She looked at him for a moment, assessing her own emotions. Before she could reply, Noah had already opened the car door for her with a challenging smile. "So, Lena, are you going to turn down an invitation to celebrate success?" Noah closed the door, still smiling, as he turned around and got into the vehicle. For the first time in years, he felt an excitement that went beyond numbers and contracts. Noah got into the car with a discreet smile, still feeling the adrenaline rush from the success of the dinner. He looked at Lena, who was sitting with her hands resting in her lap, a slight smile on her lips. The evening had been a triumph, and he wanted to prolong it. The idea of ending it there seemed almost incomplete. "Lena," he began, his tone casual, "dinner was incredible. Nakamura was impressed, and I have no doubt that you had a big part in it. I don't want to end the evening like this. Let's go to a bar and celebrate a little." Lena looked at him, and for a moment he noticed a slight hesitation in her eyes. She cracked a small smile before replying with surprising calm. "Thank you, Noah. I'm glad everything went well, but I really need to say no. Tomorrow is a work day and I can't be late." Noah was surprised. He had expected Lena to accept without a second thought. Any other woman he had gone out with would have taken the opportunity to prolong his company, to show off, to immerse herself in the luxurious world he offered. But Lena wasn't like the others. There was a quiet firmness in her refusal that disarmed him. "Are you sure?" he insisted, more out of habit than for any other reason. "I can guarantee that the hotel would understand." She shook her head, with a smile that conveyed kindness and determination at the same time. "I really appreciate the invitation, but my routine is important to me. It was an incredible evening, Noah. I think it should end like this." Noah didn't try to convince her again. He simply nodded, more intrigued than ever. As he drove to drop her off at home, he couldn't help but notice how Lena seemed so at ease with her decision, so sure of herself. When she got out of the car and said goodbye with one last smile, Noah stood still for a few moments, watching her disappear down the driveway. Back at the hotel, Noah found the silence of his penthouse heavier than usual. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, but the taste felt empty in his mouth. The image of Lena, her confidence, her honesty, continued to linger in his mind. There was something about her that he couldn't ignore, something that went beyond what he understood as ordinary. He went to bed late, still lost in thought, and for the first time in a long time he felt a restlessness that didn't come from business. He fell asleep wondering what else could be hidden in that woman who seemed so simple and at the same time so enigmatic. The next morning, Noah didn't leave for work at the usual time. He had something on his mind that kept him there. He wanted to see Lena again. He knew that she would be starting her shift that morning, and that, as always, one of her first tasks would be to organize his coverage. He was anxious but tried to remain calm, disguising his anticipation. When he finally heard the sound of the door opening softly and Lena's careful footsteps entering the space, he felt a wave of excitement that he himself couldn't explain. "Good morning, Lena," he said as he stepped out of his inner office, taking her by surprise. She stopped, slightly startled, but soon regained her composure. "Good morning, Mr. Carter. I didn't expect to find you here." "Noah," he corrected with a smile. "I decided to work from home today. I thought it would be a quieter day." She nodded, still a little surprised, but began organizing the items in the trolley she had brought with her, preparing to tidy up the room. Noah watched her for a few moments, noting the efficiency with which she moved, how each gesture was calculated but still natural. "Lena," he began, his voice softer this time, "I was thinking about what you said at dinner yesterday, about your life in Lithuania, your family, your dreams. I'd like to know more if you don't mind." Lena hesitated, looking at him with an expression that mixed surprise and apprehension. She wasn't used to being the focus of attention, least of all from someone like Noah. But there was something in his tone, something sincere and respectful, that made her feel she could trust him. "There's not much to say," she replied at first, as she arranged the sofa cushions. "I disagree," said Noah, crossing his arms and leaning against the table. "I think there's a lot more to it than you let on," she sighed, putting the cushion aside and finally facing him. "I used to be an interior designer," she began, her voice carrying a mixture of pride and pain. "In Lithuania, I had my own office. It wasn't big, but it was mine. I loved what I did. I designed spaces for people who, like me, wanted to turn something simple into something special." Noah said nothing, allowing her to continue. "But everything changed when I trusted the wrong person," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "A business partner, someone I thought was my friend, used my trust to embezzle money. When I found out, it was too late. I lost everything. My office, my clients, my credibility." She paused, looking at the window as if reliving that moment. "And as if that wasn't enough, the man I was with, someone I thought would be there for me no matter what, left as soon as things got tough. He said he didn't want to be dragged down by my failure." Noah felt something tighten in his chest as he listened. It wasn't just empathy. It was a deep recognition of Lena's pain, because he knew what it was like to be betrayed. "That's why I came to London," she continued, "to start again. But it's not as easy as I thought. Working as a chambermaid is far from what I dreamed of, but it's what I can do to help my family. My brother is at university, and my mother needs expensive medication. I can't give up." Noah was silent for a moment, processing everything he had just heard. Lena looked away, almost regretting having shared so much. "Lena," he finally said, his voice softer than she had ever heard it, "you haven't lost your essence. It's here, right in front of you. You are so much more than the circumstances that brought you here." She blinked, surprised by the intensity of his words, but didn't respond. Noah watched her, as if he were seeing something rare and precious, something he had never noticed before. While Lena organized the details of the room, Noah sat on the edge of an armchair, engrossed in the conversation. He asked careful but genuine questions about her story, Lena's every word drawing a picture of perseverance that he couldn't ignore. She spoke with a melancholy calm about the days when she designed spaces that reflected her clients' dreams. There was passion in her voice as she described the sensation of transforming ordinary environments into something unique and meaningful. Even as she worked, adjusting cushions or lining up objects on the side table, her voice carried a weight that left Noah deeply touched. He had never allowed himself to observe someone in this way with such attention. For him, people were often part of a bigger picture: investors, clients, business partners. Each interaction was carefully analyzed and categorized, but Lena was different. She didn't fit into any pattern he knew, and that disarmed him. As Lena finished tidying up and prepared to leave, Noah stood as if to prolong that moment. "Lena," he said, his voice deeper than he had intended, "thank you for sharing this with me. It's rare to hear such an honest story. You're an incredible person, you know that?" She gave a shy, almost hesitant smile as she collected her cleaning trolley. "Thank you, Noah. I guess I'm just trying to do the best I can, like the rest of us." When she left, silence returned to the room, but Noah didn't feel relieved. Instead, her absence felt heavier than any emptiness he had ever experienced. He sat down again, looking at the window, but his mind was far away, stuck on Lena's words, the pain and the strength she carried. He knew he couldn't simply ignore what he had heard. Lena had helped him decisively at dinner with Nakamura, but it was more than that. She had shown an authenticity that he hadn't seen in anyone for a long time. Noah began to think about how he could repay her, how he could help her achieve the dreams she had left behind. But as these thoughts enveloped him, he also began to feel uneasy. The frequency with which he thought about Lena was disconcerting. During the day, while reviewing contracts and discussing strategies with his team, his mind kept wandering back to Lena. He tried to concentrate, but it was useless. Every gesture she made, every word she said, seemed to be engraved in his memory. It began to bother him. He had always prided himself on his control, his ability to separate the personal from the professional, but now that control seemed to be slowly slipping out of his hands. When evening came, Noah decided that he needed to distance himself. Perhaps it would be better to stop interacting with Lena, to allow her to get on with her life without interference. He didn't want to complicate things, and he certainly didn't want to be misunderstood. However, the next day, Noah found himself once again waiting for Lena at her penthouse. He had an important meeting in the morning, but had decided to postpone his departure just to see her again. When she entered the room carrying the cleaning trolley as efficiently as ever, he felt a wave of relief he couldn't explain. "Good morning, Lena," he said, his voice calm but charged with a restrained energy. She looked at him, clearly surprised to find him there again. "Good morning, Noah. Are you working from home today?" "Not really," he replied, smiling slightly. "I have a meeting in a little while, but I wanted to talk to you before I left." Lena paused for a moment, holding a folded sheet in her hands. "What about?" she asked, with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Noah stood up and began to walk slowly around the room, as if carefully choosing his words. "I've been thinking about what you told me yesterday, about your experience as an interior designer. It's clear that you're talented and that you love what you do, and it occurred to me that I might be able to help." Lena frowned slightly, not knowing what to expect. "Help how?" "I'm about to open a new technology campus for my company," he explained, turning to face her directly. "We're still at the planning stage for the interiors. I want you to design the space." For a moment, Lena was speechless. The idea seemed so out of place, so surreal that she almost didn't know how to react. I don't know what to say, Noah. Is this a serious proposal?" "Absolutely," he replied, with a firm tone. "You have the talent. And I believe this could be an opportunity to start again." Lena, however, hesitated. Her thoughts began to race, her insecurities surfacing immediately. Why was he doing this? Was it just gratitude for dinner? Or was there something more behind this offer? The memory of the women she saw coming in and out of the hotel, often accompanied by Noah, invaded her mind. She put the sheet on the trolley and looked directly at him, her voice firm but laden with caution. "Noah, I need to ask, why are you offering me this? Is it just about what happened at dinner, or is it something more?" He frowned, confused. "Something more? I don't understand." Lena took a deep breath, feeling vulnerable for being so direct. "I've seen the women you bring to this hotel. I know what they're like. I don't want to be just another distraction for you. If that's what you're thinking, I'd rather turn you down now." Noah felt the impact of her words like a punch in the gut. He realized that his offer had been misinterpreted, that Lena saw it as something he never intended it to be. He stepped forward, his expression sincere and determined. "Lena," he began, his voice deeper, "I understand why you might think that, but I assure you it's not the case. I'm offering this because I believe in your talent. There is no other intention. I just want to help you regain what you've lost." Lena looked at him for a long moment, trying to discern the truth in his words. She wanted to believe him, but her past experiences made it difficult to trust. "I need to think," she finally said, picking up the cart and moving towards the door. "Of course," Noah replied, with a tone that mixed understanding and frustration. "Think about your time, but know that the offer is genuine." Lena left, pretending to have forgotten a cleaning item. Noah stood in the room, feeling a mixture of emotions. He knew he was trying to do the right thing, but he couldn't avoid the feeling that there was something else going on, something he wasn't ready to admit even to himself. Noah spent the rest of the morning restless. He put off leaving for his meeting as long as possible, waiting for Lena to arrive at the penthouse. Each minute seemed longer than the last. He wasn't sure why he was so anxious. He just knew that he needed to resolve the tension that had been hanging in the air since the previous day. When he finally heard the familiar sound of the door opening and Lena's light footsteps entering, he felt an immediate sense of relief. Lena seemed surprised to see him still there. It was rare for Noah to delay his routine. "Noah," she said with a slight hesitation, "I thought you'd already left." He smiled a little nervously, but trying to look casual. "I wanted to wait. About yesterday's proposal, I know you need time to think about it, but I have an idea. How about we meet tonight in a restaurant? That way, I can show you the details of the project. Maybe, if you look at everything calmly, you'll be able to analyze it better and decide." Lena looked at him for a moment, evaluating the suggestion. She was still wary of Noah's intentions, but something about his sincerity made her consider it. "I think that would be a good idea," she finally said, with a small smile. "Great," Noah replied, trying to contain his enthusiasm. "I'll take care of everything. Just tell me what time would be best for you." "After my shift," she suggested. "Around 8? Perfect. I'll meet you there," he said, before finally picking up his briefcase and leaving for his meeting. Noah's day was a succession of appointments and meetings, but his mind was constantly going back to the scheduled dinner with Lena. He went over the project materials 3 times, making sure everything was perfect. When the evening arrived, Noah was already at the restaurant waiting. The place was elegant but discreet, ideal for a quiet conversation. He felt unusually anxious. He wasn't the kind of man who let himself be rattled by meetings or negotiations, but tonight seemed different. When Lena entered on time wearing a simple but impeccable dress, Noah felt his heart race. He stood up immediately, offering a smile he couldn't contain. "Good evening, Lena," he said, with a warmth that wasn't typical of him. "Good night," she replied, returning his smile. They sat down and Noah asked for a light wine to accompany them. He was attentive to Lena's comfort, making sure she felt at ease. After a few minutes of casual conversation, he finally pulled out an elegant leather briefcase and placed it on the table. "This is the project," he said, opening the folder and spreading out some carefully diagrammed sheets. "I want you to see every detail. I want to hear what you think." Lena leaned forward, looking closely at the plans and sketches. Her eyes immediately lit up, as if something dormant inside her had been awakened. Noah noticed the spontaneous smile that appeared on her face as she analyzed the images and read the technical descriptions. "This is incredible," said Lena, almost in a whisper. "The space has so much potential. And the lines, it's as if it's already asking for life, for personality." Noah was fascinated to see her so excited. It was as if the weight she carried on a daily basis had disappeared for a moment. He started asking questions, asking for opinions and suggestions, and Lena, without realizing it, immersed herself completely in the project, pointing out ideas and observations with the skill of someone who clearly had a talent for it. For a moment, the world around them disappeared. It was just Lena and Noah leaning over the papers, sharing ideas and an energy that seemed almost palpable. When Lena's fingers brushed his as they both reached for the same sheet, the touch was as natural as it was electrifying. Noah stopped, his attention fully on her. Lena also stood still, sensing the mood that had changed between them. Their eyes met, and for a moment the silence was more intense than any words that could be spoken. Without thinking, Noah slowly approached. His movements were careful, almost hesitant, but Lena didn't move away. He could smell her soft perfume, her closeness making it impossible to resist. When their lips finally met, the kiss was intense, full of contained emotions that neither of them had recognized until that moment. For a few seconds, everything seemed perfect, as if time had stood still. But then Lena pulled back, standing up abruptly. I have to go," she said, her voice full of confusion and emotion. "Lena, wait," said Noah, also getting up, but not moving to stop her. She looked at him, her expression a mixture of desire and internal conflict. "Thank you for showing me the project. I need time to think about everything." And with that, she left, leaving Noah standing there, his heart racing and his mind flooded with thoughts. The next few days were restless for Noah. Every morning he expected to hear Lena's light footsteps entering the penthouse, the familiar sound of the cleaning trolley, the quiet voice that greeted him with an effortless "good morning." But she didn't appear. Instead, other maids took on the task, coming and going quickly, doing the job efficiently but without the presence he so craved. Noah tried to convince himself that there was nothing to worry about. Lena had mentioned that she needed time to think about the proposal, and perhaps she was just avoiding him while she processed everything. But as the days went by, his unease grew. He realized that her absence was starting to affect his concentration. His meetings seemed endless. The contracts he was reviewing seemed to lose their importance, and even the challenges of his company failed to distract him. Finally, unable to bear the doubt, Noah went down to the hotel reception. He knew it might be strange to ask about Lena, but he couldn't help it. When he approached the concierge, he tried to maintain a casual tone, even though his heart was racing. "I'd like to know about the chambermaid who used to look after my penthouse, Lena. Is she off duty?" The concierge hesitated for a moment before answering, looking uncomfortable. "Mr. Carter, Lena no longer works with us. She handed in her letter of resignation a few days ago." Noah stood motionless, as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. The news hit him like an unexpected blow. "Why did she mention it?" he asked, his voice lower, almost a whisper. "No, sir. Just that it was for personal reasons." He nodded slowly, thanking the clerk before walking away. His mind was in turmoil. Lena had left, and he didn't even know why or where. But then he remembered something. Her address. He knew where Lena lived, because he had picked her up from home the night of the dinner with Nakamura. Determined to find answers, Noah got in his car and drove there, the tension growing with every kilometer. When he reached the narrow, modest street where Lena lived, his heart was racing. He parked and got out of the car, looking at the simple house she called home. Through the window, he saw movement, and as he approached, he noticed Lena inside, packing suitcases. She looked different, more serious, carrying a weight that he recognized immediately. Noah took a deep breath before knocking on the door. Lena opened it with a surprised look, clearly not expecting to see him there. "Noah," she said, her tone reflecting both surprise and hesitation. "Lena," he replied softly. "I heard that you left the hotel. What happened?" She looked away, as if organizing her thoughts before answering. "My mother," she began, her voice breaking. "Her health has taken a turn for the worse. I need to go back to Lithuania. I can't stay away from her now." Noah was silent for a moment, taking in the information. He could see the weariness in Lena's eyes, but also the determination of someone who knew what needed to be done. "I'm sorry," he finally said. "This can't be easy for you." She gave a weak smile, a gesture that seemed more to reassure him than to express any real relief. "I need to be there. My family needs me." As she spoke, Noah noticed the open suitcase on the floor, full of carefully folded clothes. He felt a pang in his chest as he realized that Lena was really leaving, that this might be the last time he would see her. "Lena," he said, breaking the silence. "Before you go, can I have your phone number? I'd like to keep in touch, see how you're doing." She hesitated for a moment, but then nodded, taking out a piece of paper and writing down the number. "Sure," she said, handing him the piece of paper. "I don't know what it'll be like there, but I'll try to answer whenever I can." Noah put the paper in his pocket, feeling the weight of the gesture. As he turned to leave, something inside him stopped him. He stopped at the door, turning to face her again. "Lena," he began, his voice lower but charged with emotion. "Ever since we last saw each other, I haven't been able to get you out of my head." She widened her eyes slightly, her hands stopping in the middle of closing her suitcase. For a moment she seemed lost in thought, as if trying to process what he had just said. "I don't know what this means," Noah continued, stepping forward, his expression vulnerable. "But I needed to tell you. I needed you to know." Lena didn't reply immediately. Her mind was in a whirlwind of emotions. Noah's words had hit her in a way she hadn't expected, awakening feelings she'd tried to keep buried. But at the same time, she knew that her life was in a state of uncertainty, and allowing herself to feel anything for him seemed risky, perhaps even impossible. "Noah," she began, but her voice failed her. She lowered her gaze, unable to bear the weight of his stare. Noah waited, but when he realized that Lena would say no more, he nodded slowly. He took a step back, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Take care of yourself, Lena, and please let me know if you need anything." She just nodded, watching as he walked away. When the door finally closed, Lena sat down on the sofa, her heart racing and her hands shaking slightly. Noah had planted a seed of doubt and emotion in her mind, something she didn't know how to deal with at the moment. Noah couldn't keep Lena out of his thoughts. Every morning, every moment of silence in his penthouse reminded him of her. He tried to concentrate on his work, but even the most important tasks seemed trivial compared to the longing he felt. Despite his frequent travels and constant commitments, he always found time to send a message or call Lena. Sometimes she would reply with brief messages. Other times she would pick up and they would talk for long minutes. But even with these interactions, the distance seemed unbearable. After weeks of this routine, Noah finally made a decision. During a phone call in which Lena seemed more open and relaxed, he said with a determination he himself didn't know he possessed, "Lena, I want to see you. I want to come to Lithuania." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line, and he almost thought she would refuse. But then, in a softer voice than usual, Lena answered, "If that's what you want, Noah, I'll wait for you." The trip was organized quickly. Noah knew that for her, the mere fact of accepting his visit was already a big step, and he didn't want to give her the chance to change her mind. When the plane landed, he felt a wave of nervousness he hadn't experienced for years. When he arrived at the address Lena had sent him, his heart was racing. When the door of the house opened and he saw her, all his fears disappeared. Lena was there, as serene as he remembered, but with a smile that seemed to light up the room. Without thinking, he pulled her into an embrace, holding her tightly as if to make up for lost time. "I've missed you so much," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. Lena, who had initially stiffened at the unexpected gesture, slowly relaxed, allowing herself to return the hug. "I felt it too," she admitted, and the words seemed to soothe something inside Noah. The days that followed were marked by simple but intense moments. Noah met Lena's mother, a woman with a fragile appearance but eyes full of determination. She was recovering and was already showing signs of improvement, which put Lena at ease. Noah helped in any way he could, showing a caring and attentive side that Lena hadn't expected from him. "You didn't have to do all that," she said in a quiet moment, as they watched Lena's mother resting. "I want to be here," he replied, looking directly at her. "And I want you to know that I won't let you get away from me again." His words were simple, but charged with emotion. Lena knew Noah meant it, and something inside her finally began to give way. When her mother was stable enough to continue her recovery without needing constant assistance, Lena made the decision to return to London. Back in the city that was now her home, Lena immersed herself in Noah's tech campus project. He gave her complete creative freedom, fully trusting her vision. Lena worked tirelessly, and the passion she felt for design seemed to be reborn with every decision she made, every detail she adjusted. When the project was finally completed, it was much more than just a functional space. It was a masterpiece that reflected both Lena's innovation and her soul. On the day of the inauguration, the technology campus looked stunning. Journalists, investors, and important figures from the sector were present, but Noah barely noticed the crowd around him. His attention was completely focused on Lena, who, although radiant, seemed to maintain a humility that only increased his admiration. Noah asked for the floor during the event, and those present gathered around him, curious to hear the man who had revolutionized technology talk about his latest achievement. He began with the usual thanks, but then his voice changed tone, becoming more personal, more charged with meaning. "This project is special to me for many reasons," he said, looking out at Lena in the crowd. "But the most important thing is that it has been realized by the hands of someone truly extraordinary. Lena," he continued, now speaking directly to her, "your dedication, your talent, and your vision have made this space something far greater than I could ever have imagined." The crowd followed his gaze as Lena, clearly moved, looked at him with shining eyes. "I've never said this before," Noah continued, his voice firm but with a vulnerability he rarely showed. "But meeting you changed my life. You taught me to see what really matters. You showed me that there's more to success than numbers and achievements. You brought light where there was darkness, and I can't imagine my life without you." The room fell silent, and Lena felt tears welling up in her eyes. She had never expected anything like this, never imagined it could mean so much to someone like Noah. When he came down from the stage and approached her, the emotion on his face was unmistakable. "Lena," he said, holding her hands, "I love you." For a moment she was speechless, but as she looked at him, Lena realized that she had found not just a partner, but someone who truly believed in her, someone who saw her value in a way that she herself had forgotten. "I love you too, Noah," she finally replied, her voice full of emotion. The event went on with renewed energy, but for Noah and Lena, the moment they shared was all that mattered. They had overcome obstacles, faced doubts, and, in the process, found something truly unique, a love that challenged them to be better and stronger together. Noah and Lena's lives transformed into something they had never imagined. After the opening of the technology campus, their relationship blossomed in a natural but deeply meaningful way. It wasn't just a love story, it was a partnership built on respect, trust, and mutual admiration. Lena, now confident in her talent, devoted herself to new projects. The acclaim she received for her work on the technology campus opened doors she never thought she'd cross. Design foundations, architecture firms, and even private clients began to seek her out, enchanted by the way she brought personality and soul to every space she touched. Noah, always by her side, made a point of highlighting her talent at every event or meeting. "She's a true visionary," he would say with unmistakable pride whenever someone praised her work on campus. Despite their success, Noah and Lena decided they needed a place of their own, a space where they could escape the hustle and bustle of the corporate world and reconnect with each other. After weeks of searching, they found a charming house in a quiet London neighborhood. The building, with its historic facade and 19th century architectural details, immediately enchanted Lena. For Noah, the appeal lay in the idea of creating a home, something he had never really had. Lena dedicated herself to the design of the house, with the same enthusiasm she put into her professional projects. But this time, there was something more personal about each choice. She mixed contemporary elements that reflected Noah's technological world with vintage pieces and classic details that brought a touch of history and warmth to the space. The house became a perfect reflection of them, modern and innovative, but with deep roots in the authenticity and charm of the past. One of their favorite parts of the house was the garden. Lena created a serene space with aged wooden benches surrounded by fragrant flowers, while Noah discreetly installed technological systems for irrigation and lighting. They spent sunny afternoons there, talking about future dreams and sometimes just enjoying each other's company in silence. Noah also found a new purpose. Inspired by Lena and everything she had overcome, he decided to expand his business to include initiatives that supported young creatives. His foundation started offering scholarships to emerging designers and architects, and Lena took an active role in mentoring these talents. "I know what it's like to start from nothing," she would say in her lectures, encouraging students to never give up on their dreams, even in the face of adversity. Despite all their responsibilities, they always found time for each other. Noah, who used to live only for work, now made a point of prioritizing Lena. He planned little getaways, such as trips to European cities she had always wanted to visit. In each place, he watched her admire the landscapes and architecture with sparkling eyes, feeling grateful to be able to share these moments with her. "You've given me more than I could ever ask for," Noah said one evening as they dined in a small restaurant by a canal in Venice. "And you've given me a new start," replied Lena, smiling at him tenderly. Back in London, their lives found a harmonious rhythm. Noah continued to lead his business with the same passion as always, but now with a more balanced approach. Lena, meanwhile, was not only building her career, but also helping others to find their voices in design. They were more than a couple. They were a team. As they walked along the tree-lined street in front of their house, Noah held Lena's hand and looked at her with an expression that was serene but full of intensity. "I never knew what I was missing until I met you," he said. Lena squeezed his hand, responding with a smile that said more than words could express. They didn't need anything else at that moment. Together they had found the perfect balance between their passions, building a future full of possibilities, and above all, true love. What did you think of this moving story of love, overcoming, and new chances? Let us know in the comments what rating you would give this plot, and don't forget to like and watch the video that is showing now for more incredible stories. See you in the next video.